Good morning to all of you. We'll start. I hope the slide is visible. I put that on slideshow. It's visible, right? You can see the slide, right?
Sure.
Thank you. So now we move on to cargo handling. So what we had looked at in the previous couple of sessions is about the supply line, the configuration of the supply line, its management, and also issues related to warehousing and methods that can minimize the storage or minimize the need to store goods. So now all these are integrally related to cargo movement, specific to air cargo. To put that in perspective, the JIT that we have just discussed yesterday, just in time, that for many industries, many segments of industries, and many manufacturing units, and also to many supply units, like where the finished goods are given to the market directly to the customers. For many of such units, JIT can be implemented only by relying on air cargo because of the fast the quick turnaround and the fast delivery systems, which is only available with air cargo, or which is characteristically available with air cargo. So all that leads to, or rather all that provides the background that is required for uh, understanding the importance of air cargo. And then now we move on to the issues or the processes related to handling of cargo in the airports. First, just recalling the dominance of air cargo in the supply chain. It's probably the more the not probably in reality the fastest and the most efficient means of transportation of goods. I missed out of this one there. I'll correct that. That is sort of very obvious. The turnaround time is the lowest for air cargo or movement of or transport of goods by airlines. Now, I'm just quoting some statistics that is provided by IATA. Airlines transfer. It's a relatively recent update on the status or the fraction of cargo that is being transported by air. Uh, so I'm just reading out from the statistics that they have put. Airlines transport over 52 million metric tons of goods every year, representing more than 35% of global trade by value. That's important. 35% of global trade by value, which is a very significant fraction. That is more than 1/3 by value. That's also important. Actually, by volume, it is much less because these are all the materials that are being transported by airlines are very value intensive. So they may not be huge. They may not be. They are not, and the bulk is not this one. It's not very high, but the value of them is pretty high. So 35% of global trade by value, which is actually less than 1% of trade by volume. So it's not significant by volume, but it's very significant by value. So that's where the transport of goods by air by air cargo fits into the uh, global supply chain. And the numbers are equivalent to about what 6.8 trillion worth of goods annually and 15.8 billion worth of goods every day. Every day, 18.6 billion worth of goods are being transported by air cargo, which is a very uh, significant amount by any scale. Now, IIT also reports that the COVID certainly had a significant impact, and that's quite obvious, particularly in the year 2020. The globally, the about 10 kilometers fell by 10 kilometers. That is a product of the distance and the mass, the weight that is being carried. Where that dropped by about 21.4% on an annual basis in 2020. But then quickly that has recovered. That is, even before the passenger aviation recovered from the COVID impact, the cargo did pick up rather at a faster pace. So is now is sort of reaching back to the normal levels after the after undergoing through the COVID impact. So anyway, regardless of that, the air cargo plays an important role, a significantly high value of the global trade of goods. Now, we move on to look at some of the specific issues related to air cargo. Many of them commonly may be shared by other this ones, but then what are key considerations when we are talking about air cargo? So some of the challenges associated with them needs to be specially packed owing to a need for cargo transfer. Now, cargo transfer from the airport terminal to the aircraft, to the cargo carrier, and also unloading. So loading as well as unloading requires special packing. Now, this will have to, which means that you cannot suddenly change your mind and just transfer it to a cargo, this one from, say, maybe a different mode of transport. That's not possible. It has to be packed specially. So right from the beginning, there should be a plan to send something by air cargo, and the packaging or the packing or how it is going to be packed, the loaded, unloaded, etc., to be planned a priori. So packing is an important requirement. Perishable goods require special packing. Now, what are perishable goods? Obviously, it's like food items, etc., which do not stay for a long time and which require air cargo because other means of transport have higher turnaround times. So you need to transfer these things quickly to before they get expired. And perishable goods, please note that it's not just food items. Even say when vegetations have to be transferred, like plants, seeds, etc., they are also can have to be considered as perishable. Not only those, even say like items like magazines, periodicals, they are actually perishable because though the material doesn't, the physical material, the paper doesn't perish over time, but the value of them, utility of them is perishable. That is, say if it's a weekly, for example, you won't like to read a weekly which was a periodical which just came this week after a couple of weeks, right? So they have a value that is associated with their periodicity. They have a value that is associated with their timeliness. Same thing applies to newspapers, obviously, the dailies. So periodicals in general are to be considered as perishable goods. So though the material doesn't, the physically the material doesn't get spoiled by itself, the content of it, the information, the value of it, the relevance of it is perishable. So it has to be transferred at the earliest, so with fastest turnaround. Now, meat, etc., which has to be stored and transferred under controlled storage. Fish, the export of fish and stuff like that, all require special transfer protocols. And actually, that kind of protocols have to be followed when they are being shipped and when they are being transported by trucks, etc. Then live cargo, animals, etc., pets, etc. If they are being sent by cargo, there are specific attention needs to be provided. So these are some issues which has to be specially attended to in relation to cargo transfer. But then, and now we'll look at more general issues or more general categorizations of aircraft, the cargo arrangements, and also the procedures. The classification here, what is given is quite obvious. Cargo can be transported by a passenger aircraft where passengers are which is mainly meant for passengers, and then like whatever check-in luggages, etc., can be carried as cargo, and also most importantly by cargo carriers, which are dedicatedly for the cargo transfer. So you may have a few crew members, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6. But other than that, it will be all cargo in a cargo carrier. And then there are also combination where you have passengers as well as cargo. This means that when you say combination aircraft, you have passengers, you may have their checked-in luggages. In addition to that, you have pure cargo load also. So all these are the three. All these can be categorized as aircraft which can carry cargo either partially or fully. And this is about the types of carriers. I guess I'll just go to the picture. Yeah, this, for example, shows an Antonov, the Russian, the huge turbofan engine-driven aircraft, Russian Antonov 225, AN-225, loading Apache helicopters is the image that is shown there. I guess it has 6 turbofan engines, and each of them with about 235, if I remember correctly, kilonewton thrust capacity. So huge aircraft actually. I guess the maximum load capacity is about 250 tons or so. I don't remember the numbers correctly, but of that order. So AN-225, huge cargo carrier that loading an Apache helicopter is what is shown in the picture. So I have even a YouTube link there. You can see that later. Nothing special about that. It just shows the takeoff of this huge aircraft, which by itself is it's quite a view to see. You can see that at anyway, now we go to on to this visual. Yeah, that the deals or the arrangements that you can have for air cargo. These are all dependent on the urgency of transfer, the turnaround time that you want for the transfer, the distance also, and most importantly, how much you can pay for it. So it's like a trade-off between time and the money that you can pay for the transfer. So the priority as well as the price that you can. So it's a balance between trade-off between priority and price. If you have high priority, if you want high priority, you'll have to pay more price, and vice versa. So that depending on this, there are several options that you can go for when you have to transport something by air cargo. So we'll just go by each of these standard categories which are listed here. Air charter, the highest priority, which means that the costliest one also, is a dedicated freight service which you rent, in which you rent an aircraft for your exclusive use. So from wherever to wherever it's possible. So it's like global coverage. From whichever airport you want and to whichever airport you want, the transfer from to and from, and that at the time that you want. When you need it, you get it. That can, but of course, with pre-booking. So that is chartering an aircraft, chartering a cargo aircraft for transferring the goods that you want to move from one place to another. And it's exclusively for your service, and hence the cost will be the highest, but you have to seek for go for that when you need the highest priority and the lowest turnaround time. Now, the second in line is part charter. A part charter is also a high priority air freight service in which you will secure space on an already scheduled flight. So there may be somebody who has already booked it, or some other groups have already uh, booked a charter service, and you also get a place in that. Your cargo also finds a place in that with appropriate deal with the group. So it is more like a shared service. That is, many people, many parties, many companies, many individuals, or many agents, as they say, share the same flight, the cargo service to transport their respective goods. Now, here, it's not exclusively for you. One. The second is you have to share the space. So you have to compromise on something, but then the benefit is that the cost will be significantly lower than you exclusively hiring or renting a cargo carrier. So that this is the second. The third one, first flight out, high priority air freight service again. Here, you book a cargo which is the next first flight from the airport. So, or between the 2 points, that is not just from the airport, between 2 points. So, if you want to transfer something from Chennai to Mumbai, which is the first flight that is available, you get a place in that, or you get the goods that you want to book or you want to transfer, get transferred out in the very first flight that is available from Mumbai, cargo flight which is available from Chennai to Mumbai. So that kind of a priority service is referred to as first flight out. And this will be significantly lower. The price will be much lower than the part charter, because this is a common cargo that is going, but the price, the additional price that you are giving is for ensuring that you get the very first flight out. Then coming next is it may not be the first one, but it's a which has a, uh, quickest transit time. That the quickest transit time means that it doesn't have stopovers in between. For example, say it's quite possible that Chennai Mumbai flight may have a stopover in possibly in Bangalore or even Goa, etc. But then if you don't have that, so if you are able to book it, or if you want that to be the lowest time for the flight time, then that kind of transfer is referred to as express, which will be higher than the normal prices because of the express, the fast turnaround. Then comes the standard. Standard is like, as the name indicates, it's like any other booking that you do for a flight. In this one, you have regular flights. They may have stopover, may not have, but and you don't get a priority service, etc. Not the first available flight, etc. But depending on the availability of space, you get your car. You can get your cargo booked. You can get your the goods to be booked into the cargo flight. So the pricing will be, again, standard will be much lower than any of the categories that we have discussed, and including the express, this one, because there is no quick transit time, etc. promised here. This is just a standard flight. Now, you have even lower cost as offers to go for. One is the deferred one. This is a low cost, so the priority goes down actually. Low cost freight service with the lowest cost air carrier service. Longer transit times will apply. So transit times will be higher, may have stopovers in between. The flight may not be available for the next several hours, or maybe a day or so. But then when it is available, you will get booked in that, or your the goods that you have will get loaded into it and will be transferred to the required point. The time may be more, will be more, but the The benefit is that it will be sort of, but it may suit your budget. It'll be they will put that into the lowest cost air carrier service, which is operating between those 2 points. And then probably the least expensive one is referred to as consolidated cargo service, sometimes called as console cargo service, and that's the lowest cost freight service. Here the agent again, whoever is going doing the booking accumulates freight as a warehouse and ships when cargo so here it's like you may have many things to be transported, but then they just go into a line, a booking line or a queue. Whenever there is a significant amount mass to be transported, which makes economic sense, then it will be loaded. So the goods may be waiting there for maybe a few days or so before it gets transferred to the flight. So this is like so that I mean the benefit here is that it's going to be very cheap, relatively very inexpensive, whereas the delay may be higher and will be higher. You probably won't get an assurance as to when it is going to be served. Now, all these I just taken all these categories are followed in the US. Many countries, India also have similar patterns, though all of them may not be available all the time. For example, deferred, consolidated, etc. You probably won't have it. I mean, those options may not be globally available, and even in places where they're available, it's not necessary that between 2 points you may have all these options available. But we are considering all these because these are in general the various categories of deals or arrangements that you can have with cargo carriers with regard to the transport of goods of your interest by considering the priority and the price to pay for it. Any questions so far? No. Okay. Now coming to cargo handling at airports. The handling of cargo. Now we are actually going to focus on pure cargo carriers. That is when a material has to be, a consignment has to be booked in at the airport and loaded onto a cargo carrier and followed up till it is unloaded and handed over to the people who are going to forward it further. So there are several procedural steps. In fact, there is a manual called IATA Cargo Handling Manual, which describes in detail the steps to be followed to ensure safe and secure transfer of cargo. So these are procedural steps which have to be followed from the delivery at the airport. That is the moment it's collected by an airport staff from a person who is handing it over, who is doing the booking, until it is ready to be loaded on the plane. So that much is happening inside the airport from where it is departing. Now, the procedures apply also at the destination airport. That is where it is going to be unloaded from the aircraft and handed over to the consignee, the person who is going to forward it next, or to take the person who is going to carry it next. So procedural steps from booking to loading, carrying, unloading, and handing over to the consignee, all the way, all through this process. This is what the documented procedure or documented steps in for all these to be stuck to is referred to as the cargo handling procedure at the airport. And these have to be followed very strictly in order to ensure the safety and security of the transfer of goods. Now, these steps, there can be variations in some of the minute details of these from country to country, depending on the state law. But then what we are going to look at here is the generic procedure, which are listed down by IATA. So on this, I'm taking IATA as the reference, which they have, that is the steps that they have mentioned to be followed. Now, many of these steps will be again dependent on the local rules and regulations pertaining to that country. So in some of these steps, the staff has to do in accordance with the law of that country, the regulations of that country. So, but what this procedure lists down is are the steps to be followed all through the booking, transporting and unloading of the cargo. So that we'll go go through them one by one. First is accepting shipment as ready for carriage. This is a very important step. Anything that is being handed over at the airport cannot be taken blindly by the airport staff for to be boarded on, to be loaded onto the to the airport. So while accepting the shipment, the handling personnel, the ground handling personnel, the airport staff must take several steps to meet the requirements to ship the goods by air. Now, these few points that are listed here will have special, as I mentioned earlier, will have special, many of them will specially rely on the rules and regulations for the country. So they need to be aware, they need to have the documents which say what can be carried and what cannot be carried, and what are the regulations to be followed when anything is being checked in for cargo transfer. So but in most generally, they need to verify if the shipments are securely cleared, that is they are packaged in a way that they can be shipped, and must perform a ready for carriage, so which requires a lot of security checks to make sure that the materials can be loaded onto the plane, and the information that is given by the person who is handing over, the information that is given by the person who is handing over regarding the contents should be validated, and it should be updated if there are any changes. So this entire process, right from examining the contents, verifying and ensuring there are no objectionable materials, etc., are to be done with the primary objective to ensure that the consignments are in compliance with the local rules and regulations. That is important. Now it is mentioned local export rules here. Need not be always an export. But for example, from Mumbai to Chennai to Mumbai is not an export. So in international airports, so when they are being sent out from the country, they will be in addition to the local transfer rules, they need to also comply with the export regulations and rules and regulations of the transit airports and spaces, if any. That is, if they are going to be in between, if there is going to be a transit airport, so for example, something which is being sent from India to the US may most often will have a transit point either say in the Middle East or UK or in Europe or somewhere. So in all that, you need to make sure that the material that you are sending off from here are compliant with the requirements of the transit points also, though they are probably not going to be, they are not necessarily going to be unloaded and going out of the airport in those places. So that's also important before you send something, or before if you before actually accepting the shipment. So please note that these are all the steps before the handling staff accepts the shipment, shipment. And very obviously, the import regulations of the destination country should make sure that whatever is going, whatever you are sending from here are allowed to be imported into the destination country. So once these checks are, or once the consignment or the materials clear all these checks, then the next step is to prepare cargo for flight. Obviously, it cannot be just dumped into an airplane, to an aircraft, right? So you need to prepare the cargo for flight, and there should be specific, specially trained staff who can carry out that job, and they should be having the specific facilities, infrastructure to ensure that the loading units can be prepared. They call it the unit loading devices, which are basically the consignment boxes to which these can be fit in and be loaded onto the aircraft. I guess we'll continue this discussion. For now, I'll stop because we have 2 presentations to complete. Any questions, we can address them now. Otherwise, I would request team 2, I guess 2 and 4 are remaining, I guess. So if you don't have questions, we'll go for the presentation of team 2. Questions, if any? No. Then we'll move on to the group. Team 2 may please share the window and start the presentation. I have stopped sharing my display. Slide is visible. You can put that on slideshow and then start finish. Nish, you can start. Renish, in case you are talking, you're muted. Please remember to unmute and start the presentation.
Sir, am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Nitin, can you go to slideshow mode? The slide is not visible. Okay, I'll start. Good morning, everyone. I am Renish from Team 2. I'll be presenting today's presentation about the logistics of Flipkart. Next slide. Next slide. Nitin, the slide is not changing. I think you can reshare again. Stop sharing and reshare. Yeah, now it is visible. Can you go to slideshow mode? Yeah. Next slide. So the contents which we'll be seeing today are a small introduction about Flipkart and how Flipkart fulfills its orders from the customers and the logistics of the products being delivered to the customers. Next slide. So Flipkart is an Indian e-commerce company which has its headquarters at Bangalore and incorporated in Singapore as a private limited company. Flipkart provides a one-stop destination through its website as a marketplace for products varying from groceries to tech products. It involves everything from groceries, tech products, dresses, cosmetics, etc. and etc. Next slide. Uh, so when you actually place an order in Flipkart, the order goes to the Flipkart's fulfillment centers. Now we are going to see what are these fulfillment centers and how the order gets placed to Flipkart. Next slide. These centers provide a state-of-the-art technology for placing your orders to the Flipkart personnel. These centers provide spaces for the sellers to store their products at a very low cost, and they also provide quality check controls, packaging facilities, and fast provide ease of access for faster delivery. When the sellers have their products stored in these fulfillment centers and the products go through Flipkart's quality check and packaging, these products get a Flipkart assured badge, which it will be visible in the website. Next slide. So when after a customer places an order, it will be uh, downloaded through the order management system by the Flipkart personnel, and it will be selected from the inventory where it is located, and that order will be picked and packed by the personnel in that warehouse which is closer to the customer's location, and the label generation process, etc. and etc. will be done in these fulfillment centers. After everything is done, then the product will go to the shipping and delivering process. Next step. Next slide. The shipping and delivery process will be involved in the logistics of this Flipkart company. The logistics of the Flipkart company is handled by its logistics arm, which is eCart. Next slide. The eCart Logistics was actually a separate startup, and it was taken over by Flipkart for since it had an innovative delivery process. eCart actually ships 10 million shipments per month, and as of 2015, the 85% of Flipkart's total order was delivered by eCart. Next slide. So eCart actually has a delivery system which delivers all the shipments to more than 3,800 pin codes. The the timeline of Flipkart's logistics journey is given here. In 2010, Flipkart introduced its first cash on delivery system, and in 2013, since it had a greater logistics system, it introduced in-a-day guarantee service in which if a customer places an order, the order will be delivered to the customer by the next day. And in 2014, the delivery system grew even further, and that made Flipkart to introduce the same day delivery system where the customer will get the order within 24 hours. Also, in the same year, due to this huge growth of their delivery system and their logistics, Flipkart introduced the Big Billion Day sale, where all the shipments will be delivered within a day, and this made a huge success for Flipkart's business. And in 2015, uh, Flipkart made a tie-up with Mumbai Dabbawalas. These Mumbai Dabbawalas usually know every customer's address and their office addresses, home addresses and office addresses. They take the lunches, dinners, everything from the customer's home to their offices or wherever they work. This was the work for Mumbai Dabbawalas. Um, Flipkart used the potential of these Dabbawalas to deliver their products in Mumbai. So these are the things about logistics and fulfillment centers of Flipkart. Next slide. Nitin. Thank you. Thank you, sir. That's all.
Thank you. A couple of questions. You mentioned about the tie-up with the Dabawala. Dabawala service is quite famous. The
Yes, sir.
timeliness, the accuracy, the punctuality, etc.
Yes, sir.
But then that kind of an arrangement is available only in Mumbai, right? It doesn't make sense anywhere else. Probably we don't have a similar system, to the best of my knowledge, in any other cities, right?
Yes, sir. Actually, that tie-up is for only local Mumbai, sir. Because Mumbai has heavy traffic. This e-card system, they cannot do timely delivery all the time, sir. So they tap the potential of Dabbawalas in that city alone.
Fine. Okay. Now,
Yes, sir.
Flipkart was acquired by Walmart in 2018. 18, the
Yes, sir.
deal was this one, I think.
2000.
You didn't mention anything as an impact of Walmart's acquisition, the Walmart's purchase of this company. Any changes in their operations, any enhancement in their network, or anything that can you can comment on? Any
Uh,
change in the mode of operation, etc. Yeah, distribution
Sir,
system.
as to my knowledge, only their inventory has been grown by Walmart's investment, sir.
Mm,
And the logistics was already at its great potential by e-cart, sir. That's why they acquired e-cart logistics.
that's right.
So
That's right. So what do you mean by increase in the inventory? The service, that is the spectrum of
their
products that is.
warehousing and acquirement of products, sir. Acquiring products from sellers, etc.
I see. Okay, so you don't find any change in their supply chain management after
No,
the.
sir. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else has questions, comments, please? No. Okay. Thank you. So we'll go to the
Thank you.
next one. Team 4,
Yes, sir. One second.
please. You can share and start.
Lights visible?
Visible. Yeah. Carry on.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Very good morning. So today we would be looking into a favorite burger brand. So it's McDonald's and its supply chain. So it's me, Priya, and Sahana presenting today. To start off with, we will look into the small intro and history of how it started. So basically, as we know, McDonald's is a name which is today synonymous with this fast food. And McDonald's is the fastest food chain with restaurants all over the world. So it serves burgers and other fast food customized to local taste. So the main philosophy of the brand is to have the statement "One World, One Burger." So we look into McDonald's history. So it basically started as a drive-in restaurant in late 1940s. In 1966, McDonald's was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. To be precise, it started on April 15, 1955 in USA, the first restaurant. And almost 50 years down the line, it is the largest food service system with more than 30,000 restaurants in more than 100 countries, serving 46 million customers every day. So now moving on to the then in June 1967, McDonald's opened its first restaurant outside USA and Canada. And coming to the main part, the McDonald's entered India as a joint venture. Next slide. So it all started in 1996. The first restaurant was opened in India at Basant Log, Vasant Vihar at New Delhi. So basically, the McDonald's is a 50-50 JV partnership between McDonald's Corporation USA and two Indian businessmen, which is Amit Jatia, Hardcastle Restaurants Private Limited, Mumbai, which owned and operates Western India, and Vikram Bakshi Connaught Plaza Restaurants Private Limited, which rules Northern India. So basically, the team was mainly trained in Indonesia and USA. In 1995, these both businessmen agreed with the deal, and they had a complete commitment to quality, service, cleanliness, and value, which it stated as QSCV, which is the main goal of McDonald's. And as I said, they were trained in Indonesia and USA. So approximately 75% of the menu available in McD in India is Indianized and specially designed for Indian customers. Next slide. First, we will look into what a supply chain is. A supply chain is a network of facilities, including material flow from suppliers and their outstream suppliers at all levels, transformation of materials into semi-finished or finished products, and the distribution of products to customers and their downstream customers at all levels. So basically, this is the definition of supply chain. So the raw materials flow, basically it follows a supplier, manufacturer, distributor, retailer, and then consumer. So information and the money flows in the reverse direction, and the balance between these three flows is what supply chain is all about. So why supply chain? It basically helps in minimizing cost. It will cut down the delivery time. It will also improve the profit, and at the same time it will maintain the highest standards. So before setting up this first restaurant in India, McD actually infused 400 crores in supply and delivery chain alone. Next slide. So this is the pull and push. Uh, 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 it is basically pushing and pulling marketing in the any business which starts. So it starts with the suppliers, where it supplies the materials, and then the product delivered to the distribution centers, and then to the products delivered to restaurant, and then the customer order at the restaurant. Push and pull is nothing but during pushing a brand is in front of the audience, and pulling market, on the other hand, means that it's a strategy that naturally draws the customer interest to our brand. Next slide. So first we look into the suppliers. So McD has a three-leg stool concept. So this is all about supplier, company, and franchise. So the main success of the supply chain, it has a strategy which is found by the founder Ray Kroc. So his system rests on a simple win-win proposition for all the parties. As I mentioned, its employees, owner, operators, and the run the restaurant, and its supply chain partners. So these are the three known three legs of the stools, and this is the main success of the supply chain. So two types of suppliers are mainly major and small suppliers. So we will look into some of the suppliers of McD. Next slide. So the first one is the Dynamic Dairy, which is a supplier of cheese. So Dynamic has brought immense benefits to farmers in Maharashtra, and they have many bulk coolers. So easily accessibility has enabled farmers to have income in surplus milk. So this factory has mainly fully automatic international standard processing facility, capability to convert milk into cheese or butter or anything needed with the milk products, and then stringent quality control measures and continuous research and development. Moving on to the Trikaya Agriculture. It is the supplier of iceberg lettuce. So this supplier mainly has a nursery with a team of agricultural experts. Drip and sprinkler irrigation is raised farm beds with fertilizer mixing plants. It has also a pre-cooling room and a large cool room for post-harvest handling to avoid the delay, and also has refrigerated truck for transportation. Next slide. So now about the Vista processed food. This is the supplier of chicken and vegetable range of products. So they'll always have a separate processing lines for chicken and vegetable fruits, and also they have frozen foods at temperature very low as minus 35 degrees Celsius to retain for total freshness, and it will have international standards, procedures, and support services. Next slide. So next is the Amrit Food, which is a supplier of long life UHT. UHT, which means the ultra high temperature milk and milk products. So they'll maintain in a very strict quality control, supported by a fully equipped quality control laboratory. Next slide. So these are the outsourcing the ingredients, few ingredients which we were looking into. So these are the few items and places from which the ingredients basically come from. Next slide. Rest to Sahana.
Thank you, Priya. So this is e-procurement system. So procurement is basically the process of acquiring the goods your company needs. So which in turn the supply chain management is the process of turning these goods into products and distributing them to customers. So this is a basic model of e-procurement model. So this McDonald's uses an e-procurement model under the name of eMac Digital, which is owned by McDonald's. So this is a website that allows McDonald's franchises to buy everything needed to run their restaurants. And then when it comes to distribution, so the entire distribution of McDonald's products in India is handled by the Radhakrishna Foodland Private Limited. So this Foodland provide customized distribution and logistics such as storage, handling, and distribution solution to various clients. At its main centers are located at Mumbai and Delhi. And it also manages the daily activities, so which is raising purchase orders to suppliers, invoicing, keeping track on working capital management, timely delivery and on payments, etc. And overall, we can say that any item required is directly sourced from R&K. There are only two products, that is buns and cokes, which are directly sent to the restaurants because buns have a limited shelf life. So they are sent directly to the work outlets. So Coca-Cola has its own distribution system. So which is also known as that is also known as co-branding. So it distributes its quick dispatch of its products. And one of the most important thing and interesting thing to note here is no legally documented service level agreements. That is, McDonald's has not signed any agreements with the suppliers or with the distributors. So when it comes to suppliers, it is one product and one supplier, and for distributors, it has several key performance indicators. That is, which is based on the administration efficiency, total number of cases managed per man-hour, and warehouse efficiency, and the overtime of the total number of hours worked. And when it comes to transportation, the number of cases handled per trip and the utilization of the truck. So the next will be this is a McDonald's supply chain in India. And it is a flow chart, so it has centers in Noida, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Kolkata. And so tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers are basically tier 1 are the core suppliers, and tier 2 are the suppliers which is from which has some level of undergoing process and then to the restaurant. And then this is about transportation. So transportation is this same Radhakrishna Foodland Private Limited handles truck movement in the supply chain right throughout the country. So these trucks are capable to carry different items because they have different compartments for the respective products. That may be frozen products, for a chilled products, and a dry products with respect to the ambient temperature. And cold chain. So as the word itself suggests, it's a temperature controlled supply chain. It is a series of storage and uninterrupted series of storage and distribution activities, which is maintained under a particular temperature range, basically to enhance the shelf life of products and to retain its freshness. And this concept was first introduced by McDonald's in India. And this pull supply chain system. So this is the concept of this whole supply chain management is a pull supply chain system concept. That is the restaurant issues order to the distribution center, which in turn routes the order to the supplier. Only then the supplier produces it. So this concept wholly is known as made to order. So overall, we can say that the supplier thus maintains barely any extra stock. And this flowchart tells about what exactly the R&K land does. And we saw about storage and transportation and distribution. And to mention about the technology is SAP. SAP is for Supplies Excellence Tool. That is SAP System Application and Product Software has been used. We also know as all the industries are automated plants now. And the next important thing to note here is HACCP. That is Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. That is the certification which ensures the quality of the food product. For this, McDonald's has developed a sensory program. That is, every batch of a product that gets manufactured at the supplier's plant is checked by an approved sensory panel at the plant, and some specific scores are allotted to the product. And then only a product with a minimum score is shipped out of the factory. So on the overall, we can say that McDonald's supply chain is quite uniquely handled with least number of employees on the McDonald's payroll. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good presentation. I guess it covered a lot of points connecting the supplier, the franchisee, for this one, company and the franchisees. So that's good. I just have one curious question. You mentioned in the first slide, I think, that this one was one world, one burger. But then later we see that they've made there is about 75% of Indianization when they are operating in India. So
Yes,
this
sir.
one burger and 75% Indianization, are they not conflicting with each other? Or how do
No,
the
sir. One world, one burger, which meant only the brand. Burger means it should be McDonald's. It meant the philosophy of that. So that's how the McD started. One world, the burger should be McDonald's.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's not the constituents or not the taste, but
No, sir.
the brand name.
The
Yeah, the
brand.
brand name.
Yes.
Yeah. That clarifies it. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
Any other questions or comments? No. Okay. Okay then. Thank you. Thanks to all of you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.